sure I've got this angle right so you can see me. Okay, so coming into standing, and we're going to start our practice this evening with a little pelvic floor work or play, as I like to say in pregnancy yoga. And we'll start by placing one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly again, and just bringing a little bend into the knees. You can find that sense of nurture throughout the upper body. And then as you spread out through the toes, find an even grounding through the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. So you've got this kind of steadiness throughout. And you can keep the hands here to kind of remind the front of the body to relax and soften. So sometimes when we're exploring the pelvic floor, we can tense other areas of the body. So see if you can maintain this softness to the front body, allowing the breath to flow freely. And now option to close the eyes as we start to bring your awareness to the pelvic floor. If you feel a little dizzy or off closing the eyes, then find just a steady gaze ahead of you on the mat or a couple of feet ahead of you. And now start to direct your attention deep down into the pelvic floor basin. And you can visualize that sling of muscles coming from the front to the back, the urethra, all the way to the back passage. Visualizing that muscles as a sling of muscles, front passage, middle passage, back passage. Familiarizing yourself with that. And now as you breathe in, find a natural breath in, but as you breathe in, begin to zip in and up through the pelvic floor muscles. And as you do this, visualize this in and up from the pelvic floor, running all the way up through the length of the spine. You could run your awareness up the vertebrae of the spine, and then up through the crown of the head. There's this lift that you can kind of feel traveling all the way up to the very crown of the head from the base of your pelvic floor. And then holding that for a few moments. See if you can contract the muscles a little further and hold for a moment. And that in and up sensation. And now as your next breath out, softly release the pelvic floor muscles. Allowing those muscles to soften, release, and let go. So when we do the prenatal pelvic floor, we contract on the inhale and we release on the exhale. When you've had your baby, that switches in reverse. So you'll do it the other way around. So just a note for future self. But today, as we do pregnancy, we do inhale on contraction and release on the exhale. The idea is that the baby is born on the exhale, that quality of letting go and allowing the muscles to release your baby into the world. So we're going to do this a few more times and see if you can keep the legs fairly solid. So you've got a solid base, this strength building in the legs. And then find that position of the spine so it feels tall and elongated. And now start to breathe in, taking that steady breath in as you draw in and up through the front, middle, and back. Visualizing that sling of muscles. Seeing if you can maintain that natural breath into the hands, maybe feeling the hands moving. And now take a sharper contraction of the pelvic floor and hold for a count or two, maybe 3 or 4 counts. Just see where you get to naturally with that hold. And then very slowly release. So we want to try and slow down the release of the pelvic floor. So there's that real conscious softening as you breathe out. So we'll do this a few more times. Inhale, contract, front, middle, back. Just directing your awareness there. Don't have to worry about if you're doing it right or wrong. Directing the awareness to the pelvic floor, lifting up. Visualize that lift all the way up through to the crown of the head. Hold. And then softly release. Feel the front body relax a little further as you release the pelvic floor. And now drawing in and up, front, middle and back. Visualize that in and up, moving through the spine, all the way up through to the crown of the head. And as you exhale, release, front, middle and back, soften. So I'll do 2 more like this. See if you can send all of your awareness down to the pelvic floor. So there's this real element of exploration and curiosity into what you feel. A heightened sense of awareness of this area. In and up as you breathe in. And release as you breathe out. And 1 more like this, and count in how long you can hold that contraction for. Just noticing how long you can naturally kind of keep that contraction today. And that'll change from day to day, depending on your hormones. And gently release, allow the hands to release. Have a little shake forwards and back. You can let the arms kind of wave forwards, release out through the legs. Take a slow breath in through the nose. And a long, slow sigh through the mouth. And then do this a few more times. So as we find that sigh through the mouth, I encourage you to find your kind of lion's breath and open the jaw really wide. And you're in a really long stretch. You can stick your tongue out and find this really nice release on the jaw. So you've got a really nice stretch throughout the face and the jaw. 1 more like this. And then allowing the legs to settle in a comfortable position. And we'll start to draw nice steady circles throughout the hips. And feel that weight begin to shift from one foot to the next as you find that circular movement throughout the hips. And have a little play at the size and shape of your circles. And you find that element of play and pleasure in the movement. So you're finding a kind of shape that feels just right for you and your baby. It's kind of dance-like quality, moving with all this extra fluid in your body. And then switch directions. And we'll start to connect to the Ujjayi breath, the ocean sounding breath. Allowing your hips to switch direction whenever they feel they want to. So see if you can kind of have the element of play with the body and thing, so that the hips can move whenever they want to. There's this dance-like fluid quality to the hips. And as we do this, we'll find a steady sipping of air in through the nose. And a steady releasing of air out through the nose or the mouth. The nose is feeling like you've got a blocked nose. That might be better to do that out through the mouth today. So there's this kind of audible, regular quality to the breath. And then if you feel you'd like to up it a notch with your movement, you could do this kind of figure of 8 movement of the hips. Again, a little circle on each side. Imagine your baby having a little dance and wiggle in the room as you create a bit more space. And then maybe switching direction. That always kind of throws me, switching the figure of 8 direction, but you can have a little play. And then we're coming back to center. We'll start to move into a Qigong practice, which is the water element Qigong form. And this is really good for the kidneys and the urinary bladder. It helps all of our waters and fluids flow a lot more freely. We're really good for pregnancy. So we'll keep this solid form throughout the lower body. Bring the hands to the side, turning up. And now drawing a circle with the arms as you breathe in through the nose. And as you breathe out, glide the hands down the back of the skull. This is where the urinary bladder meridian runs. And then as you get towards the neck, running the hands down the front of the body, but they're coming to a hover, so they're not touching the body. And then gliding that down the front, around your baby. Moving down towards the kidneys and the lower back. And now gliding your hands down the back of the legs. So you might want to take the feet a little wider. Take a deep bend into the knees as you glide your hands down the back of the legs, down the urinary bladder meridian runs. And then maybe if the bump's a little bigger, you might not make it all the way to your heels. You might stop on the calves and then turn the hands so they're running on the inner seam of the legs. This is where the kidney meridian runs. Running up through the inner thighs and then back to where we began. So the Qigong movements can generate quite a bit of heat throughout the body. And they're really great movements for pregnancy because they circulate the blood without taxing the lungs. They're gentle, but they're warming. And I'm already pretty warm, so I'm going to shed a layer. So if you're feeling warm, take a little layer if you like, or a little breather. We're going to do that steady for one more round. Breathe in, rising up. And the back of the skull. And the front of the body. You can allow the breath to be natural, soft. Moving the hands around towards the kidneys, facing inwards. And then be mindful of the size and shape of your bump as you come down the legs. Coming down to where feels comfortable. And hands move on the inner thigh, inner seams of the legs. And then back out to the side. I said we'd do one more, but we'll do one more on top of that. Arms come up. Glide the hands down the back of the head where the urinary bladder meridian runs. And then shifting down the front of the body. This is where the kidney meridian runs. Around the lower back, facing inwards towards the kidneys. Imagine there's this nourishment radiating from the hands, radiating inwards towards your body. As you glide down the back of the legs, this is following the urinary bladder meridian. And then back up through the inner thighs, back where the kidney meridian runs. Allowing the hands to come by the side. So that Qigong form relates to the water element within the body in Chinese medicine and with the season of winter. We'll do 2 more Qigong forms before moving into more traditional yoga poses. And these are the heart forms relating to your larger expansive heart, all that extra love you've got floating around. So we're going to keep the hands facing upwards. And for this one, spiral your little fingers in towards your heart. And then as you breathe out, we're going to push the hands forwards, taking a softer bend into the knees. Allow the hands to come wide as if you're doing breaststrokes, standing a little taller. And then turning the hands back to face up. So you might want to incorporate your Ujjayi breath in this one. Breathe in, spiraling the fingers in. Breathe out, push forwards. Allow the hands to glide to the side, palms face up. Inhale, spiraling. Exhale, push forwards. Hands come wide, turn back up. Breathe in, spiraling. And breathe out. Hands come wide, palms up. Inhale, spiraling. Exhale. And now taking 3 more, finding your own rhythm. And imagine that you're moving the hands through water. So there's this real fluid, effortless quality to the movement. Tuning into the ocean sound of your Ujjayi breath. And taking our final one. As the hands come by the side, we'll turn into our final heart element form. So drawing the arms wide, fire element, but relating to the heart organ. Cross the arms, drawing a large circle and allowing the hands to glide down softly. So there's this soft floating quality to the hands. Again, you could imagine that you're moving your arms through water. You might find that this changes the kind of intention of the movement. You visualize being surrounded by fluid, which your baby is at the moment, or the amniotic fluid. It's about 50% fluid, 50% baby in there, which is incredible. I'll do 3 more like this. See if you can move to the sound of your breath, tune in back into the sound. Final one. And before coming down to the mat, we're just going to release that through the shoulders. Lift up your shoulders high, drawing 3 circles back. And then 3 circles forwards. And then coming to the top of your mat, taking the feet fairly wide so you've got lots of space for your baby and your bump. And gliding the hands down the legs, taking that deep bend into the knees. And easing the hands down, step both knees back so you come into your all fours. So we'll shake up the forearms and the wrists like we did last week. It can really help you find that right position for the hands and stay a little longer on all fours. So we're going to lift up through the right elbow and then take a little shake throughout that wrist. And the forearm really alivening in the hand. And now bring your hand to a hover just above the mat as you spread out through your fingers. As you spread the fingers with a little hover under the hands, gently, with awareness, spread out through the fingers and plant your hand down on the ground. And now doing the same on the left side, so lifting up, shaking out. And bring your hand to a hover, spread, and lightly press down. And that even distribution of weight throughout the hands. Start to dome through the spine, allowing the head to be heavy, tilt your tailbone down. And now releasing the jaw again, find a slow breath in through the nose. And as you sigh out, kind of shake out through the jaw and give it a little stretch. Breathe in, coming back to your cow shape. And breathing out through the nose or the mouth, whichever feels natural. And continue to move like this with your breath. And that ocean-like quality to the breath and the movement. And from here, start to draw a circle with the head, and at the same time drawing a circle with your hips. So it works really well if you don't think about it too much. You just start to draw a circle with the head and the hips and feel that ripple effect through the spine. Noticing the connection all the way from the head to the tailbone. And then switching direction when it feels intuitive to do so. There's this rippling wave-like quality to the movement. Kind of a sense of release around the neck and the shoulders, allowing the hips to move a little more freely. And as you do this, can you synchronize it back up with your breath and see if you can tune in to move into the sound of the breath. As if your breath was like the soundtrack to your movements. And switching direction if you haven't already. And coming back to center, allowing the head to kind of level out. And now, as if you were drawing a kind of highlighter pen on your hips, we're going to isolate that pelvic movement and incorporate it with a little bit of pelvic floor. So as you tilt the tailbone down, start to zip in and up through the pelvic floor. And then slowly start to tilt the tailbone up and release throughout the pelvic floor. So we'll keep the spine fairly static so there's that isolation of the pelvis, tilting up and down. Like last week, you could imagine those two magnets on either side of the pelvis kind of hugging in towards the center to give you that sense of heightened awareness around this area and isolating this area. So as you're doing these pelvic floor tilts and that contraction of the pelvic floor, see if you can allow the breath to be natural. And then synchronize that contraction with your natural in-breath. And the release of your natural out-breath. As you're contracting, see if you can hold the contraction for 1, 2, maybe 3 counts. And then slow down the release for up to 4 counts. So see if you can slow down and soften the release. Count into 4. Now count to 4 as you slowly contract and lift in and up through the pelvic floor. Holding that contraction for 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4. And slowing down the release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Contract as you tilt the tailbone down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold. And when you're ready to release, slowing down that release. 1, 2, 3, 4. And tailbone tilts up. So I'll do 3 more of these on your own, because if you're out of sync with me, it'll be really irritating. So just finding your own flow, synchronizing that contraction with the tailbone tilting down, and the release with your tailbone tilting up. And I really recommend you closing your eyes and really directing all of your awareness to the pelvic floor. So you're strengthening that awareness and ability to concentrate and explore these muscles. And you do it with a lightness, a playfulness. See if you can relax and soften the muscles of the face. That's always a bit of a sign if you're taking the pelvic floor a bit seriously. Your face might start to crunch up or show you some telltale signs in its expression. Can you find that lightness throughout the face? And taking a final one. If the arms feel like they need another little release, you can shake them out again. And we're going to do some more fluid movements throughout the hips now you've done your work for your pelvic floor. So drawing large circles throughout the hips. And do that nice freedom of movement again at the pelvis. As you're drawing the large circles, you allow that movement from the hips to kind of ripple up through the spine. So this freedom of movement starts to transcend throughout the entire spine. As you're drawing your circles, you can start to move into a little side stretch. So as you bring the hips over to the right, allow the ribs to come over with it. So there's that little C-shaped side stretch on the right side. And then moving the hips over to the left, allow the ribs to move with it. So you're getting that little stretch down the left side of the body. Now, if the wrists are starting to feel a little sore, then you might like to explore coming onto your fingertips. If you're creating kind of 2 spiders with your hands, and this can actually be really strengthening for the wrists. So you might welcome this movement as a different position. It might also feel really nice if your bump's getting a little larger, giving yourself a bit more space throughout the hands and the upper body. And coming back to center. We're going to walk your hands in towards your legs and then draw onto the balls of the feet, bring the heels slightly in, So you're in a low goddess pose. And this, I always think this pose looks really beautiful with a large bump here. So you can optionally place your hands on your bump, find a little balance there. Or you might like to place one hand on your bump and one on the floor to just check in with your balance. Now gently starting to walk the hands forwards as you move in towards your downward facing dog. Step the feet a little wider. And now gently sway your hips from side to side. Feeling that stretch shift from one side of the body to the next. As you gaze forward, step your left foot forwards, stepping it wide to accommodate your bump. Now shifting your weight into the left foot. Draw the hips back so that weight shifts into the right foot. And then as you rock your hips forwards again, allow the right foot to come with you, so there's that lightness in the transition. Forearms come to thighs, and the fingertips together. Now take a breath in here, and breathe out to rise up. That can help if you ever feel a little dizzy on the lift up, breathing out on the way back up. So we're going to move into a little goddess flow now. And to do this, you want to bring your feet wider than hip distance. So you want to be a little wider, but definitely not as wide as you would in warrior two. So find a kind of comfortable width to the feet, and then turn the toes slightly out to the side. I'm going to take a bend into the knees, and then gently rock from side to side. So you're feeling this natural weight transfer from your left foot to the right. And then bringing the forearms to the left thigh, take a slightly deeper bend into the knees, and sweep your right arm over for a nice side stretch. Taking a steady breath in. As you breathe out, switch, so the right forearm comes to the right thigh. And inhale, reach. Exhale, switch. Inhale. Exhale. And continue to move with your breath. So see if you can tap back in to that ujjayi sounding breath. Now the legs might start to get a little sore and achy, so you can start to extend that side stretch by straightening out through the legs a little as you ease into your side stretch. And just be mindful on the squats. So if you're feeling that kind of effect of the relaxing in the body and your hips naturally moving much deeper, see if you can resist that temptation to go deeper and find a kind of modest squat. We want to avoid deep squatting in pregnancy, so we'll find that gentle, kind of modest, fluid quality to the squats and this side stretch. And that element of fluidity and play, hopefully this feels like a really nice release down the side body. Back into the ujjayi breath, these final few movements. And coming back to center. Shimming the feet just a little wider. And now turn the left toes out. And have a little check in that the front heel is about in line with the back middle foot. And take a deep bend into the front knee. Bringing both hands to your heart. And taking a moment to settle here. Observing the beating of your heart as it works twice as hard, pumping for 2. And now we'll keep the legs in this position as we transition from one warrior to another. So same warrior 2, but a little flare to each. So as you breathe in, open up the arms, find a gentle stretch into that front leg as you straighten. As you exhale, bend into the knee, hands come back to the heart. Inhale, open. And exhale, hands to heart. Continue like this as you move with your breath. And again, like you're flowing through water. Imagine you're kind of being held by water. And the soft strength of water. Its ability to be adaptable to whatever comes our way. And from here, going back into that bend into the front knee, allow the left forearm to come down to rest on the left thigh, and then sweep your right arm forwards and over into a side angle pose. So we're going to flow back and arrive in reverse warrior, but very slowly and gently. So moving that hand as if you're gliding through water. Now as the right hand eases back, glide your left arm up into a reverse warrior. You can straighten into the front leg if you like. And as the left hand glides down to that bend into the front knee, the right hand sweeps forwards and over. Inviting that element of grace and fluidity into your movements. Feeling as if the body's moving as one as the right hand moves back, press into the left foot, glide your left arm up. Bend into the front knee, the left forearm comes down, glide the right arm over, in front of you and over into that side stretch. Now find an element of fluidity with your breath, and in a way that feels just right to move between these two postures. One more like this, move into the sound of your breath, whether that's breathing out through the nose or in or out through the mouth. And arriving back to center. Before we do the other side, take the feet so that the heels are slightly in, toes slightly out. We can keep the legs a little straighter this time. And then as if you're kind of grabbing a fishing net, and draw a large circle throughout the hands. Imagine that you're kind of swinging the fishing net in front of you. Start to flow the weight from one side to the next, finding this fluidity in the upper spine, and then that gentle side stretch on each side. Feel the relationship between the lower body and the upper body. A smooth connection, all as one. And then switch direction. And coming back to center. So turning the right toes out, left toes slightly in this time. Front heel about in line with the back middle arch. And bringing our hands back to your heart, landing in stillness for a moment. Settle back in, tuning back into the body. Feeling the movement within the stillness. Maybe feeling the movement of your heart. And any movement of your baby. Wondering what you're up to. Hopefully having a really great time with you in your yoga practice. Now as you breathe in, open out through the arms. As you breathe out, hands to the heart. If it feels more natural to breathe the other way, feel free to. You can find that nice bit of fluidity to the front leg. So there's shaking off any rigidity to your practice. Now gliding your awareness down to the lower body, so keep this movement. Imagine that the legs were moving through water. As you feel that strength start to build Feel that they're surrounded and supported by water. As you next open up, bring the forearm to the thigh and glide your left arm forwards and over, coming into your side angle. And in that nice long line throughout the body. As your left hand glides back forwards, kind of moving in reverse, press into the right foot, bring it to straight, and reach up through the right side. Simultaneously move the right hand down as the left moves forwards, gliding back to your side angle. And then find that fluid transition as if you're moving through water. Move into the sound of your breath. Up into that ocean-like quality of the breathing, that Ujjayi breath. Taking your final one. And coming back to center. We'll heel toe the feet in towards one another. And now bringing the feet about hip distance apart, taking that bend into the knees again. Place your hands to your hips. I'm going to isolate the tilt of the hips and the movement of the hips. You can gently tilt the tailbone down and then back. And in that isolation of the pelvis once more. And we'll move from here into a standing cat-cow. So initiating the movement from the pelvis and allowing that movement to ripple out through the upper body to the heart. So you're in this gentle extension of the spine into that cow shape. And as you initiate the movement from the pelvis again, tailbone tilts down. Gently curving the spine into that subtle flexion as much as your bump kind of allows. And we'll continue to open up through the spine, but from the pelvis. So the movement is initiating from the pelvis. There's that sense of awareness from the pelvis. And you might even like to add in that pelvic floor play again. So when we start to isolate the pelvis, it helps you kind of locate the pelvic floor muscles and have that heightened sense of awareness and play. And also make the pelvic floor muscles feel a little more enjoyable and playful when we incorporate a little more movement into it. So have a little explore that tilt of the tailbone down, zipping it in and up through the pelvic floor. As the tailbone tilts back, softening throughout the pelvic floor. If you feel you've had enough of pelvic floor, you could visualize that ripple effect of movement up and down the spine. And taking your final one, your subtle cat-cow. And we'll arrive back in standing. And do a little transition between a few of our balance poses. Prepare for the balance. We're going to re-steady in stillness. So bringing one hand to the baby, your bump, and one hand to your heart. Taking a moment to close the eyes and reconnect. Reconnect to that simplicity of the thread of your breath. As you breathe in, recognizing that nourishment of the inhale. And allowing your whole body to receive that nourishment for you and your baby. As you breathe out, letting go of anything that's not serving you right now. And letting the hands to come by the side. I'm going to start by drawing a circle throughout the right side hips. So depending on how your balance is feeling, you can draw that circle out through the toes on the floor, maybe starting there and then slowly lifting up to find that circular movement at the hip. And you might like to just kind of touch base at the floor to catch your balance. So we'll do about 3 or 4 rotations in one direction and then 3 or 4 in the other direction. And then from here, step this foot behind the left foot. So as it comes behind, now sweep up through the right arm and take a hold of the right wrist with the left index finger and thumb. And into a nice little side stretch. Gliding your way back. I'm losing my balance. And I haven't got a baby in me. And then lift your leg back up. And we'll move into tree pose. So you can either keep the foot down by the heel, the calf, maybe a little higher if you're feeling that your balance is there today. And then bringing your hands to heart center into relaxation or tree pose. And in that stillness, steadiness, strength. And come back to observing the thread of your breath in this still pose. And keep the legs as they are. As you breathe in, reach the arms up. And as you breathe out, slowly move the hands down as if you're pushing through water. Pressing the palms down slowly. And then as you move that right leg, we're going to move it slowly. Imagine these hands are helping ground you as you slowly step back to standing. The same on the other side, starting with your circular movement. And maybe lifting up the leg, finding that circular movement of the hips. You can tell I just come on my period today because my words are all sloppy and so is my balance. It's really amazing when you start having periods again after pregnancy. You kind of feel like a different person again, having that wave in your cycle, hormones just going back to that pre-pregnancy self. So then switch in direction. And then after this one, step that foot behind. Sweep your left arm up, taking index finger and thumb around the left wrist. So you press into the right foot, reach up and over into your side stretch. And gliding back throughout the left foot and lifting your foot into your tree pose, whether that's the ankle, calf, maybe the thigh. And bringing your hands to heart center. Steady your gaze to one still spot. So finding that place that's not going to move to steady your balance. Balance poses are really good for confidence building. Finding that center, inner center and balance. Calm. Adding a little movement into our balance transition. Inhale, reach up. And as you breathe out, turn the palms to face down. Lifting that foot and slowly guiding it as if you're moving through water back to where we began. I'm going to revisit those opening hip circles throughout the pelvis, just where we began, finding that nice fluid movement of the hips. And now come back to listening to the sound of the Ujjayi breath. Slow breath in, and the arms really drape and relax and kind of be floaty and fluid. So they're moving with the hips wherever they want to move, a real sense of freedom and relaxation throughout the body. And come into that sound of the breath. I'm going to start to do blubber lips to release, soften the face and the jaw. So the blubber lips come on the exhale, and you might want to lick your lips and kind of soften them a little bit before we do the blubber sound. You might think, why are we doing this? So you might think this feels amazing. Hopefully it's latter. But it really did feel amazing in my labour. I think that there's a relationship between your jaw and your pelvis. And when you start to relax your jaw, your whole pelvic area starts to relax, and it can help the release of those healthy, happy hormones that we want during labour. I'll just do a couple more of those. And final one. And now easing your way down to the mat. So we'll take the feet just a little wider, toes turn out to the side. As you draw a circle throughout the arms, draw the hands together into Malasana squat, and lowering your hips into your squat. And very gently come down to seated. Now we're going to bring the legs into a Z shape. So if you've got a blanket handy, it might just be nice to use your blanket so you've got a little bit of cushioning for your knees. We'll bring the legs into that Z shape, so the left foot kind of cups the right thigh and knee. And you're kind of resting on the inner seam of the right foot. And then from here, take a moment to settle throughout the legs, allowing the hands to rest on the knees. And bring the left hand out to the side, about a foot or so. You can come onto your fingertips, you've got a little more space. And now start to sweep the right arm over, forwards and over. And as you do this, shift onto the palm of the left hand and lift the hips forwards, arm sweeps forwards and over. And a nice opening of the front of the body, spaciousness, baby and bump. Very gently draw the hips back, float your hand back. And we'll turn to the other side, drawing the legs over as you switch. We're onto the fingertips for a moment. So the right foot's cupping the left knee, kind of on the inseam of that left ankle. And now as you sweep the hand up, press down through the right hand. Draw the hips forwards, opening up on the left side of the body. Hips move back as you glide back and forwards. And now drawing the legs back to center. This time take the feet wider than hip distance. And then bringing the hands behind you, coming onto the fingertips, and allow your knees to gently sway from side to side. You can slide your hands up with you as you glide your hands from one side to the next. Using your way back to center, come into a cross-legged position. And resting the hands on the knees. Start to gently drop your chin down towards your chest. And let the head be heavy for a moment. Feeling that long line from the tailbone all the way up through the spine, up through the neck to the crown of the head. And very gently roll your chin up and over to the left shoulder, feeling that nice release on the right side of the neck. And gradually rolling down and up over to the right shoulder. And continue with this half moon shape. You're drawing of your chin to find that release throughout the neck and the shoulders. Taking one more on each side. And then moving back to center. So we're going to complete with a little sound work to help move us in towards relaxation, and we'll take a longer relaxation this evening. So this sound work is quite simple. It's a variation of the bee's breath, and it creates a little kind of sonic massage throughout the body for the baby. So if you imagine all of that fluid within you, and this sound is going to move around that fluid around the baby and give it a healthy little stimulation and a gentle kind of internal massage with this sound of the bee's breath. So to do this sound, rather than doing a straight sound, we're going to create this little shape within the mouth where you bring the tongue up towards the roof of the mouth, so that you've got a little more of a gap between the lips, and this creates a shape that enables us to elongate the exhale and take a longer sound. So it's as if you were going to do an NG sound, and it comes out as a bit of a humming sound. So I'll do a little demo, and you can join in at any time. It's kind of nice in some ways that we can't hear people, even though it's really nice that when we do in a room, but in some ways it can throw you off. So allow yourself to just find your own rhythm with the breath. You don't need to synchronize with me. We do it on the natural exhalation. So inhale, and then exhale is that humming sound. So you might like to close your eyes so that you can completely focus in on the sound and that vibration throughout the body. We'll start with a long sigh throughout the mouth, taking a steady breath in. And a soft sigh. And breathing in. Tongue comes to the roof of the mouth, and that NG exhale. And whenever you get to the end of your sound, your exhale, you can take a moment and then do the next inhale. And we'll do 10 of these. I'll count my 10, and you just keep going with your sound. And after your final round, allow yourself to settle into the stillness, absorb the silence and stillness, and observing any effects throughout the body, and that sound work and little vibration throughout the body. And then very gently make your way down to lying on your left side. So an ease straight in towards relaxation. You might like to cushion a blanket under the hips, lying on the left upper arm, maybe putting a cushion in between the thighs. And in a comfortable position for that right arm. As you arrive in stillness, closing the eyes, let the eyelids be heavy. Taking your final sigh, release. Maybe a blubber lips or a little shake or stretch of the jaw. And allow any control to the breath to go. And you allow your awareness to simply follow the in-breath. And follow the natural out-breath. So there's this observation of the breath, this meeting the breath, and being with the breath, however it's landed and settled. As you lie here, I'm going to share a little poem by a lady called Donna Faulds, called Just for Now. Just for now, without asking how, let yourself sink into stillness. Just for now, lay down the weight you so patiently bear upon your shoulders. Feel the earth receive you, and the infinite expanse of the sky grow even wider as your awareness reaches up to meet it. Just for now, allow a wave of breath to enliven your experience. Breathe out whatever blocks you from the truth. Just for now, be boundless, free, with awakened energy tingling in your hands and feet. Drink in the possibility of being who and what you really are, so fully alive that the world looks differently, newly born and vibrant, just for now. Just for now, without asking how, let yourself sink into stillness. As you lie here, feel the weight of your bones sink down to the ground, allowing the earth to completely receive you and hold you. Feel the contact of the air on your skin, and surrounding spaciousness around you, and the areas of your body that are not in contact with the ground. Feel that expansive space. And gliding your awareness across the face, and feeling a sense of release and spaciousness to the face. Finding a soft inward smile. This warm inner contentment, as if you were greeting your baby for the first time. And sharing that unconditional love through your face, through that face expression. That inward loving smile, contentment, warmth. Allow this to radiate throughout your entire body and being. feeling a warm glow from your head, your face, your neck, shoulders, arms and hands. Allowing this warm glow to travel down to the front of the chest and the heart, and down to your baby. Asking your growing baby with this unconditional love and warmth. And letting this warmth travel down throughout the hips, the legs, the knees and the lower legs, the ankles, the roofs of the feet, the soles of the feet, and all 10 toes. And guiding your awareness back to being with the ebb and flow of your breath. Meeting your breath once more. A guide and anchor to the present moment. A guide to your body's innate wisdom. Trusting your body knows exactly what to do. Trust in yourself and your baby. And finding a gentle amount of movement throughout the body as you wiggle your fingers, your toes. And very gently move the head from side to side and start to deepen the breath as you prepare to move. And without any rush to get there, ease your way back to seated. And as you arrive in seated, closing the eyes once more and bringing your hands to your heart center in a mudra called Anjali Mudra. This gesture of connection and gratitude. And thank yourself for making the time for you and your baby this evening. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.